Okay, so Matt, great. As you just described, a sizable market. I mean, education is something that addresses almost everyone at some point on the planet. So, very, very significant, sizable market. You mentioned the types of schools and stuff to approach, but what does it take really for a company to succeed when they address this market?
Yeah, that's the challenge, is that there is such a difference between the education space and kind of the corporate space. And it's interesting because these differences are not really understood by a lot of the corporates, and actually not a lot by the schools themselves. There's a different pacing, there's a different budgeting model, there's a different communication system, there's even a different cadence of connection, right? So schools are very much connected to cycles and timetables and calendars for everything, for decision making, for budgeting, for implementation, whereas those cycles are much different on the corporate side. The language that is used in the education space is much more relational and actually less outcome focused than you'd think, whereas the outcome focus is pretty heavy on the corporate side. So there's a gap of language, there's a gap of understanding, which actually causes a lot of companies challenge because they go in with common sales and support techniques that don't really meet the needs, the relational and cadence-based needs of a school. So what we're going to do actually at this conference is we're going to talk about that. So we're going to talk about a few things, and we actually have these two great events at the Wearable Technology Conference on July 9th and 10th. We're going to do a panel session. Kevin and I will both be on that, and we're going to talk about education and wearables. So where do wearables get into education? We've got a bunch of really interesting experts that'll talk about the applications themselves, the marketing aspects, the best approaches to getting into the space, and really just some interesting topics around how best to connect to schools. Should be absolutely fascinating for anybody who's getting into wearables and wants to get a really rich group of customer subjects, whatever you want to call them. We'll talk about how to really get into that space. But that's really only going to be like an hour of interesting banter, which should be fascinating. So what Kevin and I are going to offer as well is a master class. We'll do it at the conference. There's a fee associated with it because we're going to help companies understand the education landscape. So as I said, there's this kind of disconnect between the languages, the approaches, the budget, and all that. We're going to talk about where are the leverage points and the entry points and the best approaches to making sure that companies can get that deeper traction with individual institutions and large-scale entities by speaking that same language and hitting those same cadences. So it's almost like we're going to give an education marketing 101 for wearable technology companies. It should be fascinating. Now, we've done this in other spaces, and the response has been amazing because things will come up in these discussions that you've never really heard of before or thought about before that will help guide some of those messaging elements, communication elements, even some of the technological decisions you make around updating products. We'll talk about those within this space so that you can be the best customer-focused company for the long term, which is what schools really want. They don't want one-off sales. They want long-term connections. So the two events that we're going to do at the Wearable Technologies, again, are the panel discussion. So please definitely come to that. And then join us for a masterclass on wearable technologies in education and that Education 101 market. Again, and the date and time are July 9th and 10th in San Francisco. We'll have more specifics connected to these videos.
Great, Matt. Thank you. It sounds like an excellent opportunity. I, for one, am looking forward to seeing everybody also in San Francisco, and looking forward to seeing you there as well.
Me too. See you there, Kevin. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.